You basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashed in.
Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. What is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like two old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. When you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final on this Football Friday. Entering the final weekend of the National Football League regular season, it is week number 18. So much to get to here in this third and final hour, including our pick 6 for the last time in the NFL regular season. The best bets and picks and previews that we have for the regular season finales all around the National Football League. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. We bring you up until 11 a.m. Eastern time with all the stakes, all that is on the line, playoff bids, playoff spots, divisional championships, maybe even draft positions as well around the National Football League.
I cannot wait here, Ben, for what is and it's hard to believe here, 18 weeks now about to be in the books in the NFL, postseason just around the corner. And, of course, now it gets real interesting in the lead up to March Madness. So welcome 2025.
Yes, indeed. Third day of a new year and a great first weekend of NFL action in 2025. That is the final of the regular season. And, Joe, again, it does bear repeating. There is no better way that you could possibly dream of to end out a regular season with a game that is as significant, with as many important stakes and implications as we will see on Sunday night in Game 272 between the Lions and the Vikings. 14-2 Detroit, 14-2 Minnesota. Divisional foes battling in one game for the NFC North crown and the number 1 overall seed in the NFC to have home field advantage throughout the entirety of a postseason for a Lions team hoping to make history, to become the first ever Detroit team to play in a Super Bowl, let alone win a Lombardi Trophy, and for a Vikings team that is so overexceeded expectation to continue to prove people wrong and prove they are a true conference and Super Bowl contender. Again, as good as it gets. But how are the people seeing the actual game and the football result itself? We'll find out together to start this third and final hour in Fade the Public. The Lions, a 2.5-point home favorite, the largest total we have seen since 2019, as it currently stands at 56.5. A lot of offense expected, despite the stakes of Sunday night in game number 272, the last and final of the 2024 NFL regular season. So at SportsGrid on Twitter, what is the best bet for Sunday night? The Lions as a slight home favorite, less than a field goal. The Vikings catching 2.5 points. The over of that total of 56 and a hook, or the under of that number. A couple of things, Joe, stand out to me. Both the winning bet, 56.5. Most people expecting points. Most people expecting the Lions to cover as a short 2.5-point home favorite. But also the least amount of votes in this poll. That would be the under of 56.5. Only 7.4% as I see those live results right here, right now. Joe, to me, that should say something about the offense expected, because even 56 points keeps us under our total for game 272.
Yeah, and it's one of those spots here, Ben, where if this is a true contrarian situation here where the public, we know they're going to love the over here, Ben, all day long, just like the poll says. But if you're going contrarian, when everyone's running left, you got to run right, Ben. And that tells me the under is the play in this game. 56.5 is a huge number, and I get both of these teams certainly have put up enough points to warrant this kind of look, but it's all things being equal here. They do have two defenses will be playing in this game here that have already played against one another, Ben, and both these teams already are in the playoffs. So sure, it would be great to get the bye in the 1 seed, but when push comes to shove, I'm not sure they're opening up the entire playbook here for this game, Ben. I think this game's going to be closer than people anticipate, but I also think it's a first one to 24 or 27 points wins, which will give us plenty enough room for an under in this one.
The first time these two teams played back in week number 7. The game was in Minneapolis. It was the only time this year the Lions were booked as a dog. Just a point and a half. Detroit won outright in a shootout, 31-29, which of course is 60 total points, would be over this total. The Vikings have played to an over in all 3 games against the double-digit win teams within the NFC North. That first game against the Lions, each of its 2 this year against Green Bay, including last week. Each of those 3 games featuring 52 points. One of the lines that will stand out to me the most this year, week number 1 for Sam Darnold and Minnesota on the road in MetLife. Just a 1.5 favorite against the New York Giants. Minnesota, of course, won that game comfortably to start undefeated, a perfect 5-0. But from weeks 2 to 4, when the odds really had not caught up yet, and understandably so, to this Vikings team and just how good Minnesota would be now with 14 wins, the Vikes were an underdog. Weeks 2 through 4, they won outright as an underdog. Minnesota has not got any points since the opening month of this NFL season. And Detroit is still one of the best cover teams in the NFL. In fact, the best cover team in the National Football League under Dan Campbell. 48-22 against the spread. That's a cover percentage of 68.6. They are the only NFL team that has covered in more than 62% of its games since the start of that 2021 campaign. And this year as a favorite, 10-5 against the spread. Something we haven't discussed, Joe. Again, 56.5 is the total. The expected outcome is probably not 17-14. Could it be 28-24, north of 50, but still under? Absolutely so. And if we get to 50 or even the high 40s, we know the offensive stars will be on display. Sam Darnold, 283.5, his passing yards prop. Justin Jefferson, who has been elite this year, 91 and a hook. You see the number for Jordan Addison as well. 271.5 for Jared Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs, 87.5 on the ground. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 75 and a hook. It should be noted, Aaron Jones does not have a listed number, at least on that board. Of course, a quad contusion that he suffered in the matchup against Green Bay this past Sunday.
And I will say this, guess who is a complete full participant at practice this week and is going to play in this game? Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell, the two starting linebackers for Detroit, will be back for this game against Minnesota. So they're starting to get a little healthier. And don't forget, they already beat Minnesota without Hutchinson. He was already out for the season when they played them the first go-around. Now they're getting some reinforcements in the linebacking spot. Their captain out there. I would look to fade Sam Darnold here, and I'd also look to fade one or the other, Jefferson or Addison. Pick your poison here. I tend to think they'll let anybody but Justin Jefferson beat him in this one.
Yeah, but even if you don't let Justin Jefferson beat you, getting close to 90 has not been an issue for Jay Jet this year. Both of the quarterbacks, by the way, have a passing touchdown number of a 1.5, and they're both juiced to the over at minus 200 or greater. Just make it 2.5 and let us bet that somebody's going to throw 3. Get out of town. For each quarterback to throw 3, by the way, Jared Goff is plus 178. Sammy D is plus 188. Again, those are the stakes. The Lions enter week 18 a 2-1 favorite to win the NFC. Minnesota third best price behind both Detroit and Philly at plus 360. Winner wins the NFC North and the 1 seed in the NFC. The loser, the top wild card team in that 5 spot. Plenty more around week 18 up next. There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you got to love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami was a favorite, so you usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
As we get you set for week number 18 around the National Football League, there are games with stakes. I would say 14 of 16, whether it's a playoff spot, a playoff position, that being seed line or the NFL draft. And there are some that lack a little bit of those things on the line for this regular season finale weekend. A game that we showed you the odds, but it didn't really break down. That game is at Lambeau Field. The Packers a 10.5-point favorite against a team that has lost 10 consecutive games in Chicago. Again, Green Bay with a win, still needs some help. If the Commanders beat the Cowboys on Sunday at the Star, Washington a 6.5-point road favorite, Green Bay pretty locked into that 7 spot, in pole position to claim the 6th seed. If the Commanders lose and the Packers handle the Bears as the odds expect, then Green Bay could jump up to the 6th spot, which is important because you would go on the road to the 3 seed, which is either the Bucs or the Rams, and not the 7 seed on the road to the 2 seed, which we know is Philadelphia. But, Joe, it's still a double-digit spread. How do you approach the rivalry renewed at Lambeau Field?
Oh, I don't know about rivalry renewed here. It really doesn't make a difference who the quarterback is for Green Bay. They apparently still own the Chicago Bears. Now, 11 straight games that they have lost to the Packers. They're 1-10, by the way, in those games against the number. And the one lone cover, give them credit, Ben, came earlier this year as Green Bay ended up winning on a blocked field goal, if you remember that disaster. Yeah. And Matt LaFleur has stated that the teams, all the team's healthy starters will play in this game as they can secure, like you said, the number 6 seed. And if the Commanders somehow lose, which is always a possibility here, well, that's a much easier first-round trip to play the Rams or the Bucs instead of having to go to the Eagles. So I anticipate Green Bay going full board here, and there is nothing redeeming about the Chicago team. They're not well coached. They are all waiting for what's going to happen in the offseason here. To me, this is all about Green Bay handling their business in a big way and getting the bad taste out of their mouth against with that game against Minnesota that they got actually beat pretty easily in. So expect a bounce back here.
Again, there will be some live scoreboard watching on Sunday. The Packers should come out with their heads on fire, as you would expect, some burnt cheese at Lambeau to hammer the Chicago Bears early and often on Sunday. But if the Packers see the Commanders up by 14 points late in the second half, might we see some reserves against the Bears? Maybe so. Keep an eye on the live odds board for Sunday. And, of course, Joe Ranieri and Mike Blewett will have you set on NFL football in-game live game day on Sunday afternoon. Joe, only 2 of 16 total games to end out the regular season in the NFL where neither team facing off against the other has anything at stake for a playoff berth, a playoff seed line, or anything really to do with the NFL draft. Obviously, their draft position can change, but at least in the running for a number 1 overall pick. That includes an NFC West game to end out the year out in the desert between the Cardinals and the 49ers. A disastrous season for San Francisco. The guy on your left, Brock Purdy, still dealing with some elbow issues, not going to play in the regular season finale. That is meaningless. Joshua Dobbs, is going to make the start for the 49ers. The Cardinals, not much left either. A 4.5-point favorite, though, at home against San Francisco. Joe, with neither team having much motivation, how do you even begin to handicap this football game?
Well, I mean, listen, it's been a terrible second half to the season for the Cardinals. But in all honesty, it's always a terrible December for Kyler Murray. He is one of the worst quarterbacks when the calendar turns to December and January in the NFL. His record is awful. In fact, they're 1-5 here in their last 6 games this season. He is 9-19 in the month of December and January in his career. So this is not the time that you want to back Arizona and Kyler Murray. However, this gives them this opportunity with their new head coach. That gives them an opportunity to end the season on a winning note. The 49ers are a team, been there, done that. They just can't wait to get off the field and head to rehab and get everyone ready for next year. I would lean the Cardinals in this one. They obviously, I think, would much rather end the season on a winning note. I don't think the 49ers care one way or the other.
Yeah, I thought this game might be Brock Purdy. I was interested in San Francisco because what really does Arizona have at stake either?
Right.
Now, I would agree with Joe. I think it's a Cardinals number if you really want to get involved.
Yep.
Another one in the AFC South where, again, no stakes, a disastrous season for Indianapolis, and many questions to be answered about work ethic in this organization and the future at the quarterback spot with Anthony Richardson about to embark on year number 3. An uneasy offseason, I would say, Joe, in Indy, and really the same for Jacksonville. But we haven't heard a lot about a Jags team that we thought maybe back in week 6 they would fire Doug Peterson, maybe week 11, week 16. Now, here in week 18, he's still the head coach. We'll see what happens on Black Monday, a day where head coaches often lose their roles. But, Joe, there's a thought that maybe Jacksonville runs it back with Doug Peterson and a healthy Trevor Lawrence entering 2025. 4.5-point spread in favor of the Colts. Any value in this game?
I'm thinking here that this feels like, and I know it's a tough look here, but isn't this an under spot here? I mean, Indy last week, there were guys making business decisions on the defensive side of the ball all over the place there last week here. And I know back in Mac Jones ain't a great thing here, but my goodness, it feels like Jacksonville has been giving effort even though the season has been over. I don't know that I'm going to get that with Indy here. Too many guys with the Ole last week on the defensive side for me to trust the Colts. To me, this is all about Jacksonville here.
Joe, this game feels like bowl season in a way. Week 18 in spots feels like bowl season. If you have an understanding of motivation, you handicap early. I jumped on the Jags getting 5.5 earlier this week. More on the early line up next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes with the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Live right here on the early line. It is a football Friday. Of course, week 18 in the National Football League. Our week 18 pick 6, our best bets and favorite picks for the weekend to come in just a moment. But a football Friday also means college football. What? College football playoff? No, those games are done. You are correct. But we still have 3 more bowl games in the true essence of bowl season to go this weekend. A doubleheader on this Friday, including the Duke's Mayo Bowl, who is going to get dumped in a Gatorade shower of some mayo and a game tomorrow as well. Our remaining college football bowl games to end out this illustrious bowl season. The First Responders Bowl today between North Texas and Texas State. The Bobcats and G.J. Kinney nearly a 2-touchdown favorite. The Mean Green has lost a lot early in this offseason, including their quarterback that led one of the best offenses in the sport this year in Chandler Morris to the transfer portal. Total still 63 and a hook. In Minnesota, Joe, will go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl with the nation's longest active bowl winning streak today against Virginia Tech. The Golden Gophers have won 7 consecutive bowl games. That's the most in the nation. Nobody else has won more than 5 consecutive bowl games actively at this point. Minnesota hoping for 8, and then to see the shiny bald head of P.J. Fleck get dumped with mayo today in the matchup against the Hokies.
Yeah, and you got to feel that's the way to go, right? It looks to me like Minnesota has a lot less question marks about who's going to play in this game as opposed to Tech, who a lot of notable starters aren't suiting up for Virginia Tech, including their left tackle, their center, a couple of cornerbacks, one of their safeties, a few of the linebackers, and again, Kyron Drones is the problem here. He was hurt at the end of the season, and it doesn't look like he is going in this spot. They already limited in backup quarterback, so to me, there's a reason why this thing is ballooned up to 8.5, and you could have got Minnesota at a much better number. But one team, again, wants to be here. The players want to be there, and I think one team doesn't, and that team is Tech without their quarterback. Feels like Minnesota all day long. Maybe even a look at the under, Ben. Not a bad look there. And if you can tell me who's playing in North Texas and Texas State, please enlighten me, because I have no idea who any of these people are.
That game feels like a stay away between the Mean Green and the Bobcats. I would just say, Joe, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I talked about some bets I was on early this NFL week to get ready for week number 18. One of the first bowl bets that I made way back on December 7th. Selection Sunday, after all that came out, or maybe December 8th, whatever day it was following conference championship Saturday, when we got not only the CFP, but the bowl designations as well, was Minnesota against Virginia Tech in the Duke's Mayo Bowl because of how seriously P.J. Fleck and the Gophers take bowl games.
Yep.
It was 3.5. It is now 9 and a hook in a lot of spots. 8.5 as you see here on this board. Currently on FanDuel up to 9.5 as well. That total 42 and a hook. Tomorrow, the Bahamas Bowl, Buffalo and Liberty. The Bulls a great year out of the MAC. Liberty a disappointing one, of course, in Conference USA. The Flames an underdog against Buffalo tomorrow. Any thoughts on the bowl game we will see out in the Bahamas to truly end out bowl season?
All about Buffalo for me in that one. Again, would you rather be in the Bahamas or Buffalo this time of year? That's what I thought. I would expect the Buffalo Bulls to absolutely show up and show out. Again, another Liberty team, Ben, with a whole lot of opt-outs, a whole lot of new faces there. And, one team wants to be there, wants to win in Buffalo. I think they handle business against this depleted Liberty team.
And, Joe, a lot of great college basketball now as well. Conference slates around the country really starting in full. Look at some of the games we have on Saturday. John Calipari in Arkansas visiting Rocky Top and number 1 Tennessee. You've got undefeated Florida in a top 10 tilt against Kentucky in Lexington. Iowa State Baylor. Alabama Oklahoma. I have made some jokes about the SEC and its strength in football this year. Can't do that in basketball. It is the best conference in the sport, and it's not particularly close. Big East battle tonight in Milwaukee. Marquette and Creighton. And in prime time in Columbus, Ohio State and number 18 Michigan State. The Spartans getting 2.5 points. Keep an eye on it. Our Week 18 Pick 6. That's next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their third straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes to the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
It is week number 18 in the National Football League. To think where we have been and where it ends in the regular season finale weekend around the NFL. That starts with a doubleheader on Saturday, 14 games on Sunday to determine everything for the NFL postseason and even the National Football League draft and that first overall pick in 2025 as well. 14 of our 16 games have some sort of significance for a playoff spot, a playoff seed, a divisional title, or what it means for that first overall selection come this April in the NFL draft. So, motivation and mentality, a huge part of every handicap you will have for week number 18. If this is your first time with us on a Football Friday, sad it's taken you so long, but welcome to kick off a new year in 2025. So a reminder of our weekend pick 6, our 6 favorite bets across a variety of categories for an NFL weekend slate. 2 games Saturday, 14 on Sunday. Our favorite touchdown scorer, somebody to hit pay dirt anytime, TD Price. Our favorite money line underdog to keep it close and pull off the outright upset. Our favorite under of the weekend. Then we'll go to the alt markets, a sprinkle of plus money for a favorite alternate line. Our favorite yardage prop of the weekend. A lot of incentives out there entering the regular season finales. And of course, we combine forces for a 2-leg 6-point teaser. So, anytime touchdown scoring market, Germaneri, please begin. Who and in what game?
Well, I don't want to wait to cash this ticket, Ben, so I'm just going to go with a Ravens and Browns look here. And I am going to go with who else? Mark Andrews is an anytime touchdown. Why? Well, all he's done is catch a touchdown in 5 straight and 9 of the last 10 games. He is the go-to red zone guy for Lamar once again. He has 10 TDs in his last 11 games. And it's funny because he hadn't scored a touchdown, Ben, if you remember, almost a full calendar year before the first game against the Browns, in which that's when he finally got off Schneid. And then ever since then, Lamar's got his security blanket back. And I think very much so he will once again hit pay dirt in this game. Him and Lamar We'll hook up probably early in this game, and then we won't see him in the second half.
First game of the weekend, tomorrow, Saturday afternoon in the Charm City, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's slated kick. Baltimore is a 19.5-point favorite against Bailey Zappi in the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens simply need an outright victory to clinch the AFC North and the 3 seed within the AFC playoff picture. We expect that to happen. We expect it to be all Baltimore early and often. Again, the Ravens just an outright win over the Browns to be that AFC North champ and a 3 seed in the AFC. It's the largest spread for an NFL game that we have seen since the 2021 season. Joe, much like you, I don't want to wait until Sunday to cash that anytime touchdown price. Let's go T. Higgins at -110 as the Bengals will head to Pittsburgh in a game they must have to keep their AFC postseason chances alive against the Steelers. And the one thing that has not held back the Bengals this year, it's the passing attack. And overall, I guess you could say it is the offense. Of course, T. Higgins caught all 3 touchdown passes that Joe Burrow threw a weekend ago against Denver. But it's not just that, recency bias clouding my mind. It's the fact that T. Higgins has scored in 3 straight games, 6 of the last 7. And oh, by the way, he might want to make one final statement in those Tiger stripes as a Bengal, because more than likely, this could be T. Higgins' last game as a member of Cincinnati for a Cincy franchise that doesn't like to pay its most supremely talented wide receivers. They're already going to have to ante up for Jamar Chase. T. Higgins on the franchise tag with maybe the last laugh. And if Cincy is going to keep pace in Pittsburgh tomorrow night, it's all the offense you could want once again. -110 for T. Higgins to hit Pater. Moneyline underdog numbers to know for the weekend. And Joe, that could mean right here, right now, the perfect time to get down before some of those stakes might start to dwindle as these next 48 hours play out.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting here, Ben. I think in Week 18, I do think I love your T. Higgins bet first of all here, because there are going to be points against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the last 3 games they've given up 90 in that defense, and I anticipate we could probably get a few more there. I'm going to look at another interesting game here, Ben, one that by the time your game is over there with the Steelers and the Bengals, right? By the time the Chargers and the Raiders go off, and we talked about this with Mike Blewett, this could be an absolute nothing to the Chargers. The Chargers could be locked into the number 6 seed and might absolutely decide to rest some starters here. In the meantime, the Raiders have been very competitive. They actually have a 2-game winning streak here, if you can believe that. And there is no reason for me to think at home that with go figure. They have actually found a quarterback that everyone likes to play for in O'Connell. He looks competent. Brock Bowers looking to set all sorts of rookie records. Jacoby Myers, legit weapon. I don't know. To me, I think Antonio Pierce wants to win. He doesn't care about the draft, and the Chargers may very well not have any reason to play in this game. I'll take them on the money line. I got no problem with that.
Joe, I think it's a great bet, especially because I think Pittsburgh somehow, some way actually wins tomorrow night, albeit in a high-scoring game against the Bengals. Don't forget the Steelers, who might not win the AFC North if Baltimore, as the odds and all of us expect, quickly dispatch of the Cleveland Browns. But the Steelers still desperately want that 5 seed, top wild card spot, to not have to play the Ravens in the opening round, but rather head to Houston to take on the Texans. If that is the case, if Pittsburgh wins, the Chargers are locked in to the 6 seed. Do they need to really put everybody out there against the Raiders? And Joe, if that is the case, the Bolts aren't going to be a 4.5-point favorite. That line is going to work one of 2 ways following Saturday's slate. If the Steelers lose, could the Chargers be more than a touchdown favorite? And might it make sense to bet them now? Yeah. If the Steelers win, there's a chance the Raiders end up as a slight pick'em favorite. Love the look right there. And because the Raiders have won 2 straight as a slight favorite in both, including last week against the Saints, the Raiders can't get the number 1 overall pick, which is what we thought for most of this year in Sin City. I am fascinated, by the way, to see what Mark Davis is going to do with his head coach in Antonio Pierce entering next season. Joe, I'm going to trust the head coach in Houston at his word. DeMeco Ryans has said that I'm going to play everybody. I expect everybody to be ready to play on Sunday in Nashville against the Titans. The Texans don't have anything to play for necessarily in terms of stakes and seed line. They are locked in to the 4 spot in the AFC. And yeah, Houston won a division in the AFC South. And yep, they've done so for a second consecutive year with Ryans and CJ Stroud. But this Houston team winning the AFC South wasn't the hope this year in H-Town. It was be a true conference contender. And the Texans entering the postseason don't look anywhere close to that. CJ Stroud has not been as good in his sophomore season as his rookie campaign. And I think DeMeco Ryans has said, everybody better get ready because we need to be playing our best brand of football entering that opening round game at home, of which they are not right now. So I think we might actually see the starters early on Sunday in Tennessee. And Joe, even if we see the reserves, the Titans shouldn't be laying a point to anybody. I'll take the Texans outright on the money line as the underdog on Sunday. Plenty more from the Pick Six over the final 20 minutes or so of this Football Friday on the early line on SportsGrid on the other side of the break. Plenty more bets to get to you for week number 18. It's all next.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on a Football Friday, we continue our Pick Six for week number 18 around the National Football League. We've given you our favorite anytime touchdown scorer, our favorite moneyline underdog to pull off that outright upset in the regular season finale weekend. Don't worry if you missed them. They'll be on the screen as we continue to give out some best bets for this final regular season weekend in the NFL. Now it's time for the best under of the weekend. Joe Ranieri, which game are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm not going to overthink it here, Ben. I'm going to go to New England and watch them score next to no points in this one here. And listen, I get it. Buffalo is going to start Josh Allen so he can continue with the Iron Man record. That's good. But listen, Mitch Trubisky, he's a quality backup. He's capable of certainly running the offense here. But the Pats, they've already said basically they're not going with their rookie in this one. Jacoby Brissett is, let's face it, an injury waiting to happen here. I think Buffalo wins this. I don't think they take any chances, and we just cannot trust offensively anything that the Patriots will bring to the table. I think Buffalo's defense is going to limit them. I don't think they want to sweat anything out like they did a couple of weeks ago in Orchard Park. When it comes to get all down to it, it feels like a 20-3 kind of game to me, Ben.
And I will just say this, right? We've talked about a lot of teams and places and spots this week where an NFL organization is going to rest its most significant players or its starters. If they have known that within the franchise now for a week or maybe longer than that, they're also still preparing to win a football game with the guys that are there. Mitchell Trubisky is not the starter, but he's been prepping like a starter, although Josh Allen is probably going to start and take a knee or hand the football off to preserve his 115 consecutive start streak, the longest active among NFL quarterbacks. I say that, Joe, because the depth for the Bills was the question this year. With so many familiar faces on either side of the football leaving Western New York this offseason, how would Buffalo respond? Well, they've won 13 games, maybe 14, and they're going to have the second best price to win the AFC entering this postseason. I agree. I think the Bills win this game. If the Patriots do lose, New England will have the number 1 overall pick entering the 2025 NFL draft. No idea what the Pats are going to do at their head coaching spot. I think it would be premature to fire Gerard Mayo, but that's just my 2 cents. My favorite under in Lambeau, Bears, Packers under 41.5. Green Bay needs this game to hopefully get the 6th seed, but they don't control their destiny in doing so. If Washington beats Dallas on the road, then bada bing, bada boom, the Commanders are the 6th seed in the NFC playoff picture. But Green Bay won't know that until later on in the game, perhaps, to see how Washington is faring at the Star against Dallas. Green Bay is going to be in command of this game. The Bears scored 3 points last week at home against the Seahawks in a game Seattle needed and Chicago really didn't. The Bears have given their last efforts of the year. They've got a tumultuous offseason to figure out what to do with Caleb Williams. Of course, he will return in the Windy City. He has been promising at times, and their head coach. And I think Green Bay limits anything Chicago is going to do. A one-sided affair. I can see the Packers winning 28-3 and then checking out in the second half because they do not need it. Green Bay in its last 5 games as a favorite, under in 4. Chicago in this 10-game losing skid, under in 7 of 10. Give me the under 41.5 between the Bears and the Packers, Joe.
I love it, Ben. I also happen to think that, and funny because my alt line happens to also be coming from your game there, Ben. And I'm going with and you're not going to see this very often, but how about a kicker prop? How about Brandon McManus to get 2 or more field goals in this game here? And listen, I'm kind of like you here. I don't think we're going to get a ton of points, but I also don't see there being a lot of 4th and 3, let's go for it, 4th and 5, let's go for it. I think McManus is going to have plenty of opportunities here to be able to get some field goals in this one. In fact, opposing kickers have made 2 or more field goals in 8 of the Bears' last 10 games. So I like McManus's chances here. He's only made 17 field goals in 10 games with them, but I think he's going to have plenty of opportunities here to test that leg and get into a rhythm. I think Green Bay wins it, but I think there's a few field goals along the way.
You put Brandon McManus in a must-win spot for a team, and I'm still thinking, the Denver Broncos do need to handle business against the Chiefs. But McManus, no longer in Mile High, of course, has been a very solid kicker for Green Bay, who the Pack have been dealing with some kicking woes the last few seasons. My alt line, the Miami Dolphins, laying 6.5 against the New York Jets. Because of some uncertainty around the starting quarterback for Miami, the alt market is not out yet, but they're a 1.5 favorite against the New York Jets. Miami is going to win this game, and they're going to win this game to present you an opportunity with some plus money. I don't care if it's Tyler Huntley. In fact, if it is, fine. Guy was electric last week in Cleveland. And how many points did the Dolphins win by as a 2.5-point favorite against the Browns that have nothing left? 17. I think the Dolphins can win this game by a touchdown. Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's Devontae Adams, it's Garrett Wilson. That team has never had anything in the 2 years Aaron Rodgers has been there. Certainly not this season. They have lacked any little bit of juice they might have left. It's over. It's done. It's kaput. Maybe on Aaron Rodgers' career by the end of Sunday. And the Dolphins will need that game. Miami wins by at least a touchdown. I think the number would be plus 172, something like that, if I am doing my odds making correctly. For the Fins, Joe, laying 6.5. They're only a 1.5 favorite in East Rutherford on Sunday.
Yeah, I love it, Ben. I think people are still too fixated on the fact of how inept they were earlier this season without Tua at offense. And I think Huntley showed it last week against a pretty good Cleveland defense in the conditions. He's more than capable of doing enough to beat bad teams.
Time for incentives now, as we will talk yardage props on the other side of the break, whether in a contract or a career legacy. And then we combine forces for a 2-leg 6-point teaser and a pick six next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their third straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes to the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
We round out the Week 18 Pick 6, which, of course, will round out the regular season in 2024 in the National Football League on the opening weekend of 2025. Our favorite yardage prop of this weekend, Joe, you begin. Where do you start? Might there be some incentive for this player going over a number on Sunday?
Oh, I think we already know the answer to that one, Ben. And yes, there is. And I'm going to Seattle, which has actually Geno Smith, the quarterback, with plenty of incentives there as far as yardage goes for him on the season and completion percentage. And also one of his, actually both his main targets. But JSM there has a plenty of incentive here. His number, Ben, pretty light, I believe, for his receiving yards. I had it at 67 and a half, and yeah, I don't get it. He has already surpassed his number in 8 of his last 10 games. The Rams have allowed the most receptions and receiving yards to slot receivers this season. I don't see how he doesn't feast. Also, he's got 180 receiving yards in the first game against them. I think it has no problem getting up and over, helping Geno Smith get over his yardage for the season to help him cash an extra $2 million, and also adding to his possibility of also gaining all sorts of incentives for yardage this season. So I like him and DK Metcalf, for that matter, to have big games.
The Rams are resting. LA already winning the NFC West. They can be the 3 or the 4, but I guess it's not overly important for Sean McVay to be the 3 seed where things stand right now. So Jimmy Garoppolo makes his first start for LA. Because of it, though, Seattle a 6.5-point favorite in SoFi. I'm going to Mike Evans over his receiving yards prop. Now, we use the lovely FanDuel Sportsbook, as I'm sure you can see with the logos and the sponsorships throughout our 3 hours on TEL. Maybe this number is available in other spots. I don't care. I'm an FD guy through and through. When the number is posted, it's probably going to be 84.5. Why do I say it? Mike Evans needs 85 yards to get to 1,000 for the 11th consecutive year in his National Football League career. That would be all 11 seasons in his NFL career. That was him with a hamstring injury, walking off the field. It seemed unlikely that Evans would have the opportunity to get to 1K, but he has been prolific the last 3 weeks or so for Tampa and has the opportunity to do so this week in a game the Bucs must have as a 2-touchdown favorite at home against the Saints. If Tampa wins, they claim the NFC South. And to do that, they'll be feeding Mike Evans early, often, and I believe frequently on Sunday. So over the yardage prop, whatever it turns out to be. Now time, Joe, to combine forces for our final 6.2 leg teaser of this National Football League regular season. Your leg first.
Yeah, a couple of different ways to look at this here, Ben, but I ended up going with a game that you talked about earlier, and it makes sense, right? Your money line underdog was Houston. They should not be probably a underdog in this spot, so I got no problem at 1.5, teasing them up over to a touchdown. I'm confident in them as well to be able to handle business against Tennessee. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans over a touchdown here as my leg of the teaser.
Completely agree, Joe. I picked the Texans to win outright as my money line underdog. D'Amico Ryan says that everybody better be ready to play against the Titans, even if it's the third stringers. I don't think the Titans should be favored in any NFL football game the remainder of this season. I'll take the Commanders down from a 6.5-point spread to a pick 'em price against the Cowboys. Washington wants to head back to Dallas to win one for the skipper in Dan Quinn against his former team, a divisional rival. And if the Commanders win, they earn the 6th seed in the NFC. Is it really that important, 6 or 7? Yeah, because the 7th seed has to head to Philadelphia. The 6th seed will either go to L.A. to take on the Rams or the Buccaneers in Tampa. And that 6th seed, if it is Washington or maybe even Green Bay, might be favored, albeit on the road, to win a playoff game in the opening round. Listen, we don't have enough time to run through it all. Just put up Joe's pick 6 once again so everybody can see. Mental snapshot. Take it in. Visual image. It's beautiful. Now to mine. Week 18, pick 6. Love it. Winners, sweep the board. Joe Ranieri will see you this weekend on SportsGrid. We appreciate the time as always. To all of you, enjoy week 18. Have a great weekend. We'll talk on Monday.